The SEC has 5 teams ranked in the top 25. That includes Arkansas right now at 23rd, LSU 22, Florida 17, Mizzou 11, Tennessee is 3, and that's even after their loss to Alabama. Let's get into some SEC basketball with John Gasaway, ESPN college basketball reporter. We've had him on the show a couple of times before. John, Happy New Year. How you doing?
I'm good. Happy New Year to you. I guess this is we're getting close to the last day where we can say that.
But, yeah, I meant yesterday to be the last day, but since we've had a couple of guests that we don't usually have, we just went with
yeah. I don't want to be that guy who's wandering around February still saying that. But January 5th, I think it's still fair game. Happy New Year, everyone.
Okay, then tomorrow we'll stop. You'll be the last guy we do that with. I feel like we saw the real nature of college basketball over the past week in the SEC. Just looking at the 2 teams that'll be on the court tomorrow at Thompson-Boling Arena, Arkansas and Tennessee roll through the non-conference schedule, have incredibly impressive road victories to open up SEC play, and then lay complete eggs at home in the next game. Maybe it was less expected for Tennessee to lose at home to Alabama, but for Arkansas to shoot 26% felt fluky. It just felt like that's the real nature of watching big-time college basketball.
Yeah, those were surprising outcomes. They were a couple of losses coming off of big wins, and give credit to the winning teams, I suppose. In Arkansas's case, Missouri looked tough, and Jeremiah Tillman just wore out the Hogs. He was too much to handle on the inside, and Moses Moody looks great on paper, at least in the box score, 18 points, and but he was 0 of 7 inside the arc. He needed a lot of shots to get those points. So hopefully, from Razorback fans' standpoint, they can bounce back in this next game, and certainly nothing like a road win at what might still be the favorite to win the SEC. Nothing like a road win at Tennessee to get things back on the right track.
Is there anything for Tennessee to worry about after scoring season low 63 at home against Alabama, or is this just an idea if you think it could just be a bump on the road to a possible dominant season?
The concern with Tennessee is that they might not turn out to be such a great shooting team, and that was reflected in that loss. They were just 4 of 21 from beyond the arc, and I don't anticipate any problems with the defense, certainly, and that will be a challenge for Arkansas in this next game. But if there's a concern for the Volunteers going forward, it would be what happens when teams are able to meet on equal terms with them and force them to make some outside shots. I'm not sure that Rick Barnes' team has shown that they can do that yet. Maybe Arkansas can capitalize on that in this game coming up.
Yeah, you even mentioned, though, that Tennessee's big strength is defense and strength overall, rebounding, being dominant in the paint. And that's where it feels like Arkansas is weakest, is playing around the rim. I think they're a decent rebounding team, but without Justin Smith, you lost your best rebounder. Without Justin Smith, you lost your best banger. And it feels like he would have been or could have been the most valuable player for Arkansas against a team like Tennessee.
Right. I don't want to read too much into just 80 minutes of SEC action, one of which, after all, was a great road win. But just by the numbers, your point is a valid one so far. It certainly has not been disproven. Arkansas is not looking great on the defensive glass to this point. And Eric Musselman knows his way around defense. That was his calling card at Nevada, certainly. And offensive rebounding, that's more of a coach's option or more of a scheme kind of thing. But everybody wants to limit the other team to one shot. And so far, that has to be at least flagged or highlighted as a potential concern for the Razorbacks. That's something they're going to have to show that they can do in an SEC where the opposing teams often love to crash the offensive glass.
Well, John, I mean, you're a stat guy. I know that. I mean, don't you feel like shooting 26.8% from the field, going 8 of 30 on layups, has a fluky feeling to it? Like there's a legit idea that Saturday's performance, well, you'll give credit to Mizzou, it could have just been a fluke.
It was plausibly a combination of a fluke against what is legitimately a good defense. Missouri, they've got wins not only over Arkansas now, but also over Oregon and Illinois. So the laptops are still skeptical when it comes to the Tigers, but they just keep winning games against quality opponents. That being said, the numbers that you put out there, that's not going to happen game in, game out for a team the quality of Arkansas. This is a team, I'm plugging my work here at ESPN, but pretty soon I'll be ramping up Bubble Watch, and this is a team that I expect to be talking about at some length when you're confronted with the Razorbacks. I expect them to be in the mix for an NCAA bid. Maybe they'll exceed expectations, just have it locked down, and I won't even have to talk about them at all. But I anticipate it being a little more suspenseful than that, not only for Arkansas, but for several teams in the SEC this year.
John Gasaway of ESPN here with us on Halftime. John, you brought up the different teams that could be on the bubble watch, or just kind of maybe a stressful look into it. I want to ask about one team before I want to also ask about the NCAA tournament. But before I do that, Kentucky, 2-6 start. They got their first SEC win of the schedule, but struggled mightily. And I mean, we take pleasure in making fun of Kentucky, as many people do. But John, they had a brutal non-conference schedule leading into the season. So what's your view of Kentucky? Do you think they could get it turned around and maybe make a push to try to hit that NCAA tournament bubble, or is this season as good as gone for Kentucky?
Yeah, I actually sent out a screenshot from, I can't remember now if I was watching the SEC network or one of the ESPN families of networks, but there was a graphic saying, SEC, 13 teams at or above 500, and then in much smaller lettering it said only Kentucky is below 500. So this is a very strange season, to say the least. They had some bad losses, but they also lost some one possession games, including against the likes of Kansas and Louisville. So I guess the glass half full version is, hey, they could be 4-5 instead of, or 4-4 instead of 2-6. But this is not as good a Kentucky team as we expected. I think they will still be at or above 500 in SEC play. Other things being equal, in a normal season where there's not a pandemic and there's a normal number of games, 500 in the major conference would put you into the bubble discussion. But yeah, they're 2-6, and the net rankings came out, and Kentucky debuted in triple digits, which is a nice way of saying, forget about it. So they've got work to do. They can start with a home win over Vanderbilt, and we'll see what we get from the Wildcats this season, but it's been a rough start.
That's crazy. Triple digits for the net rankings for Kentucky. That is just, it's 20. Well, I guess we can't say it's 2020 because now we're 2021. So big news coming out yesterday and coming out, and then more of it today. The NCAA tournament, the men's tournament specifically, being housed completely in Indiana and Indianapolis with the surrounding arenas that'll do it like a bubble format. John, I think they had to make a move like this just to, A, get the tournament played, but B, for the survival of the NCAA moving forward.
Yeah, and, my non-negotiable demand personally going into this was that if we can do this safely, or we think we can try, that we go for a full-size NCAA tournament with 68 teams. I'm delighted to see the NCAA shooting for that particular target. Again, I trust that, we'll stay on top of whether we can really do this safely for everybody involved. And if we think we can, then I am just happy as can be that they're going to try for the full-size thing. It would have been easy, I think, to say in this of all seasons we're going to do 32 or even 16, and I would have understood it if there were compelling, public health reasons to do it that way. it would not, from the much less important sports perspective, that would not be an NCAA tournament, particularly with 16 teams. I mean, the whole beauty of the thing is, are we going to see UMBC beat Virginia? That is the essence of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. And fingers crossed, we might get a shot to see something along those lines. And if it all 67 games take place in one state, and that's the safest way to do it, I am all for it. So hope it comes off.
Well, before I pass back over to Phil, I brought this idea up when the rumors are circulating of that this is going to be in a one-city destination, and we've kind of talked about the financial side of it, where the how much money they've lost during this pandemic. Is this something, do it like a one-city or like a one-city NCAA tournament? Is this something in your mind that the NCAA should maybe look to in the future? Because in my mind, John, if this is something that works, which, I mean, I know it will, and once we're post-pandemic and different things like that, I feel like cities will bid more to get the whole tournament in their town. And I shared this idea with Phil. Obviously, we love the coast-to-coast coverage where some teams are out west, some teams are south, east, everywhere. But I see some positives in doing a one-city NCAA tournament, particularly on the financial side.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a big positive for the city that gets it. I think that would be kind of cool. I expect that if the NCAA said that they were going to do that, they would get some pushback. I expect that the first year that the winning bid was from a city on the West Coast, you would hear a lot of hollering from a lot of teams saying we have to travel all the way out to the West Coast. I would find that hollering somewhat ironic because those same teams would not expect there to be hollering if the winning bid were from an East Coast city. It's just as far for the West Coast teams to go in that event. So I'm not sure we'll get to see it, but I like the NCAA best when it is nimble and experimental the way they are when they try rule changes in the NIT. I think that is their best instinct, and they're showing that by trying to get a tournament, a full-size tournament in during the pandemic, and if that translates into a new way of doing this, with all due respect to Indianapolis, which I love and I actually lived in for years, there are other regions that could do the same thing. There are other places in the United States with a lot of basketball courts, and maybe that would be the way to go, to hold 67 games all in one spot. I'm up for it. We'll see what the future brings.
John, we'll leave it at that. Appreciate your time. I know you've got big things coming up this year with book Miracles on Hardwood coming out in March, and as the basketball season continues, we'd love to have you on again if you could.
That sounds great, and thank you for the book plug. I appreciate it. Love
you
to come
got
on
it. We'll talk more about the book as we head towards the date of publication. That's John Gasaway, National College Basketball Reporter, ESPN.com, and we appreciate his time. Well, there's some interesting stuff going on the Twitter machine right now. Razorback defensive players are tweeting about Barry Odom in a very positive way. Jalen Catalon, in fact, says, unfinished business, run it back, with a picture of him next to Arkansas defensive coordinator Barry Odom. This makes you think that he is not going to be a former Arkansas defensive coordinator. Our lengthy statewide nightmare might be coming to an end. We'll wrap the show up after this.